Hello, I'm the Nerd, and today I'm just going to show some progress I made on the Solar Gen game, which it's been a bit of a random one actually. I decided to start this project off as a bit of an experiment, and it's actually starting to somewhat do what I aimed for it to do, which is nice. So if you've been following the vlogs, or if you've not, then I'll just give you a quick intro. So the Solar Gen thing is, I basically wanted to see if I could create a procedurally generated in some way space game, and it is starting to come together a bit better actually. Let's just move me up here. It is starting to come together a bit better now actually, so I thought I'd just showcase where it's up to now and talk a little bit about it. So the idea of it is that it's like you are in a spaceship, and the space scenes, you can travel between different galaxies. There's going to be a resource collection aspect to the game. I've done it with A-Frame. It's all been a bit like, it's a bit certain hacks I've implemented to get certain parts to work, like the HUD and everything else. I've sort of talked about that a bit in the previous videos, but I'm just going to demo some of where it's at now. One of the main loops, which is, so basically it generates these galaxies with random numbers of stars, planets, etc. Asteroid fields as well, though that functionality is currently experiencing a bit of an issue, so I won't be showing that. But yeah, I thought I'd just show where it's at so far. So yeah, obviously you got like a little spaceship and fly out. I'll just reload the whole thing from scratch. So reload everything. There are some sort of loading issues and stuff I need to work out still. Sometimes it's a bit laggy and it needs to be optimized and all that. But yeah, so we've come to the Raspberry system. It has 23 stars, so I'm going to fly around with the WSAD keys. So I'm flying around an A scene here. I've got the star fill component I used to fill the background stars. And just find a star. And I've also recently implemented a warp drive mode in the most basic form. So there we go. So you can see down there's a star over there. So we go a bit closer, just fly towards it with WSAD. I've also implemented this glow effect recently, which is actually Mike did some of that, but it needs a bit of tweaking still because you'll see it's like a full flat plane, but it looks pretty cool, right? You got the planets, and the positions are all randomly generated. And yeah, this is all randomly being generated on the fly each time. So I can fly around, I can look at the configuration of the planets. I have been working on a routine so you can land on the planets. It's not really finished yet. I've still got some work to do with that. I did make some breakthroughs with it quite recently. It is starting to look a bit better, but it's still a bit janky. It's not really fit for purpose yet, so I do actually need to figure out that as well, like if there is going to be some sort of functionality to land on the planets, maybe you have to look at it, gaze at it for a certain amount of time before you can then initiate a landing sequence. In terms of the actual resource allocation as well, how much they're going to implement that is a question too. Like it could be that you collect or something from asteroids maybe. I'm going to obviously try and incorporate, there's another sun over here, so I'm going to try and incorporate some sort of enemies, so like randomly generated enemies too, because that would obviously be cool. The glow effect is a bit needs work. Obviously you can see that it's a flat plane, which isn't exactly what we want, right? So I just had an idea for that. So if I rotate that around 90 degrees, increase the height, that would actually work. But anyway, so that's actually achieved with a sprite and some opacity. So it is quite a nice effect as long as I can just get the actual make it look radial, like a sphere basically. But yeah, that's how that part's looking. I'll show in a second as well the hyperdrive functionality, which I've started to get to work. So like I said, like the galaxy on initiation is randomly created. So there's a random number of stars you can see there. It's given a random name as well. The name is using a routine that completely randomizes the name. So the galaxy name recipe is completely random. Well, not completely random, but random enough so that it's a randomized string, basically. This is another one of the stars in this system. But yeah, so I've basically got a galaxy generation, the galaxy generation loop working. So let's just initiate the hyperdrive mode. So if I press H now, you'll see this happens. There we go. So there we go into like a hyperdrive mode. This just stays on like this graphic for as long as, until I press H again for the stop the hyperdrive mode. And in the background there, actually an entirely new galaxy called the Inronian system with 47 stars has been created. So I'll just press H, which disengages the hyperdrive mode. And I am now in a different galaxy. So there's there is some illusional stuff going on here, but basically that has then a bunch of new stars have been added with associated planets. We are in now, ostensibly anyway, of course, like a new simulated galaxy with 47 stars. So this is pretty cool. I'm glad that I got this game loop working. It's obviously something I can build on a lot. Like it's sort of a weird project this, because I'm building it with A-Frame, which is really really designed for VR. Possibly I might try and see if this would be applicable to because at the minute it just uses keyboard controls. Mobile, I've not tested it in, but you could probably look around, but I'm not sure how well it would work. Definitely the hyperdrive mode wouldn't work, for example. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm pretty happy with where this is going. It's been actually a lot of work. It's been like something I've just been working on and off for a few months as a like side project. But I mean, already there is a lot of different ways I could take it. There's a lot of different interesting things I could do with this now. I'll probably start prototyping some enemy scripts soon. Let me just show that it is actually generating a new galaxy. So if I like go really close to this little solar system, and if I press H, it'll go into hyperdrive, right? So if I now click the H button, initiating the hyperdrive mode again, you can see that's rotating as well. There we go. So I've initiated the hyperdrive again. So it's now generated the next galaxy we're going to, which is the Buratan. And this can go on, this is infinite. There's an infinite amount of variety you could get, obviously. Pretty much, I guess. Whoa. Would it be infinite? More or less. For the sake of argument, I'll disengage it again. And you can see the sun that was there before is gone, because there's a bunch of other different 22 stars in this galaxy, and there's not really 22 stars in the galaxy, I don't think, but I mean, for the sake of the simulation, like if I was going to add thousands of stars, my computer would probably blow up. So yeah, this is like, and I can just keep on doing that forever, basically. So if I wanted to go again, let's just go to a different one. So that's just something like Boeing, I think it is. Or in Zeza. Don't know what that is, but so this is quite a bigger one. It's for 45 stars. Obviously there's a randomizer which randomizes the number. It's just a random number generator, basically. A function that does that every time. And there we go, we have a different bunch of stars. So I'm pretty excited by what I've managed to do so far. It's been a lot of work. Like it's been quite a fair bit of work, to be honest, when I've been hacking away at it at night just as a side project. But it is starting to actually, I mean, this main loop of the hyperspeed it's a fairly big milestone to have achieved that. Like, I mean, technically, really, I could just release it and say it's like a demo or something already, but I still have a few. There were basic physics working before. Currently there's a weird bug where essentially the player collides with everything at the start. So I might have to like add colliders another point. There is also asteroid fields as well, but I've had to take them out for the time being because I was having some issues with them. But they do work. It does basically work. So that generates an asteroid field, for example. I think the planets I would like to have them orbiting around maybe, but basically they do sort of function as they are, really. Like, you get these generated planets for each sun. So there's like a function that basically every time a sun's created and added, it basically adds random amount of planets too. There's a whole, I'll probably go further into the code at some point as to how that's achieved in terms of the positioning and stuff. As you can see, it's mostly functional. There are occasions when potentially some planets go into the sun itself, but they are most of the time it's fairly fail-safe. I'm using this the star system is using a component, and that is limited somewhat at the minute. There are probably ways I can get around that, like, for example, that you can reach an end of this, the radius of this star, the star background elements you can see. I thought potentially a way around that would be, once you get out of the range of a certain, just to automatically just like generate a new star system. It might be computationally expensive though, I don't know. One idea I did have in mind was to make it so that you could make it infinite, so that, well, not infinite, but basically so it just keeps adding another layer on top every time you move outside of a certain radius in terms of the ship's X position, basically, or Z or whatever it is, and then just have it, further back from where you can see generate another part of like another galaxy or another cluster of stars. But yeah, this is turning into something now, which is quite nice. So we'll just go to hyperspace again. Get to the Barika, you can see there. And yeah, you're gonna have like a shield, so you can take damage. I need to work on obviously a shooting. There's no shooting range routine now, but that shouldn't be too complicated. I guess essentially the idea I had was to create two primitives, like rectangles that fire out straight ahead where the cursor is, basically. Not exactly sure if that's going to work, but so there we go. But at the minute, yeah, like it generates a new system every time. That's completely random, or fairly random, or the number of stars is certainly random, and the positioning is obviously generated somewhat procedurally. As you can see up here, this is quite expensive in terms of what it has to render. So you can see it's a bit juddery sometimes, but I mean it's not too bad. But there are like a lot of things I have to work out still in terms of the colliding with the actual image there, I think. So this is what I was talking about with the clustering. Sometimes it's a bit, that's probably not randomly distributed enough. It's so yeah, I've still got like some chinks to work out, but in terms of just the fact that I've got basically a galaxy generator working in some basic form of A-Frame and JavaScript is something I'm definitely happy with, and something I'm going to continue just to see if I can build on, and then try and obviously add the game elements of resource collection and being able to fight enemies. One other thing I can quickly probably demo is, it's not finished, but I have been working on it might break now as well, I'm not sure, I haven't tested it for a while, but there is a planet landing sort of routine which I've been trying to work on, which works on the ideas of sectors. So this is very early days, but I'll just, at the minute it's just initiated by pressing spacebar so I can test it out, and it doesn't fully work because you can't then return back to your ship, though I've got ideas on how to do that. Now this might break but I'll test it now anyway. So if I press space, that'll give me like this sort of, this is like that noise. Shows that hopefully it will sort of start the planet landing bit. The way I've done that is created so all this is in the minute actually is an A-frame environment component with it basically like creates a sector with some random bits of so I was thinking this could be the blue mana that you collect, and then it selects a randomly from an array a random A-frame environment component obstacle basically, and then the terrain's also quite random because there's different types of terrain you can get with that. At the minute though, this is very buggy, as you can see. Like I can just walk off and it's not going to affect me. There's no physics. I'm not sure if that's even supported in terms of so this might get left on the side, but it is something I've been experimenting with. So yeah, that's that. Like I said, it's sort of a weird project because I'm trying to get there. So like there's basically what's happening there is like it generates a random amount of A-frame component, but this is a bit dodgy because look, you can see the skybox is not, it's being generated too. I've been trying to turn that off with little luck when I was last playing on this, and yeah, it's a bit random that you can pass through the, and all this blue things here are, like I was experimenting with this idea of blue mana basically, which is something I was wanting to play around with, the idea of like the resource collection aspect of it. This might just get sidelined, and I might just make it so you can mine this blue mana either by interacting with a planet, linked to a star, or maybe some other method. I might have to. It is possible that I could create my own terrain generation system. You can use things like Perl and Noise, for example. That is probably possible. It's a much bigger job, of course, but this is obviously not really currently on the planet generation side of things fit for purpose, of course. Like it does sort of what it should do. It's generating some terrain, but it doesn't look like anything much at all. And of course, like I said, I can just go la 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 la, and now I can just walk off into infinity, which you wouldn't want that to happen in an actual real game scenario. I think if I press space now, the idea would be that you can go back into your ship, but it won't work if I do this now. It just goes to a blank scene because I've not implemented that part of the logic. But yeah, I just thought I wanted to demo that. Like, obviously been working on this thing for quite a while. I've been doing these various vlogs and time lapse, but it's never really been in a state where I felt like I could demo just in it. Yeah, I've got this like unfinished thing as well where you're approaching the planet undefined. It will eventually say, so the idea of that was that it would say you are approaching an asteroid field, or you're approaching the planet, and then the planet's name, because each planet gets a name too, a randomly generated one, like with the same routine as the Zara, so the random generation name. But yeah, I'll just leave it at that. If you have any thoughts, leave them below, ideas, just let me know what you think. This is like an experimental project. Whether it'll actually come to anything which I'll try and put online, I will try and do that actually. Like, it would be good to be able also to give it I mean, one way I could develop this project obviously is to make it so that there's I think creating a networked multiplayer game would be a bit much, but if I could have it so that a version of this code, or using this code somehow and running it on Node or something, or Express, Node and Express, and then having like a backend so that people could have some sort of trading system, would be quite interesting. Something I've also considered is so that every time a universe is generated, somehow all that gets spat out, and it can be retrieved, so you can reload certain galaxies once they've been generated. Like, so for example, now when I'm generating this new gallery, the galaxy, the Arana, it's completely random. It won't be stored anywhere, and essentially it'll just be lost forever now. and you know, after the session's ended, basically. That would obviously be useful if you could just, in theory, probably it's not that complicated. I basically just need to make a copy, because all the stars, look, I'll show you actually. So if I go to inspect, it's all written to the DOM. So I don't know, it's probably not the most effective method, but it's just what I've been doing as I've been hacking this out. So if I go to, for example, there's an entity here called SpaceMana, which is like a container for everything that is, so you've got the star system there, but you've also got this solar systems, as asteroid systems as well, but it's not working for some reason at the minute. But if I go underneath the entity hierarchy for solar systems, that is where it all is. And then how it's working when the hyperdrive mode goes on is it basically just removes that and then adds a bunch of new stuff. So I guess in theory, like, so yeah, you've got the solar system there, which, well, that's actually sun. That's actually a sun, and then all of these. You got different water planet types as well, of course. So I have to generate a random planet type, which then affects the textures that are applied to each planet type, etc., etc. So, for example, a water planet obviously has a water texture assigned to it, and yada yada yada, and gas and ice and all that. Adds for a bit more variety. There's a bit of color differentiation as well. That's randomized, from what I remember. Yes, you've got 2 terrestrial planets there, for example. That probably makes sense. It's been a bit like I've had to like do some clever things and sort of work around the limitations of A-Frame in many respects working on this, but it's been an interesting challenge, and even if I just leave it like this, it's quite fun to have worked on such a thing. I've learned probably a little bit about I'm just using like it's functional programming. I'll probably go over the code another time. I'm trying to, basically the main JS, which is essentially the main script, is 800 lines, so it's not that huge actually. Really, it's just, and obviously because it's using A-Frame, a lot of it's a lot of the stuff that isn't dynamically rendered or created on the fly with JavaScript is predefined in HTML, so that's not tough, obviously. I think I'll leave this video here. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you like the video, and in a bit I'll just zoom off now.